The victims have been identified as 26-year-old Christopher Hayes and 19-year-old Benjamin Finney. Now, Finney died on the scene. Hayes was taken to University Health with serious injuries, but is expected to live. Nicole, the parents say they're getting through this terrible loss through prayer. 16-year-old Jamarcus Antonio Gay was visiting his dad at the time he was killed. Police say it was an ongoing dispute between friends that turned deadly. 19-year-old Philip Woods was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. Woods and two others fled the scene and were later caught by Bossier police. Gay's parents, Lakeitha Brown and Marcus Gay, say they feel jealousy is what led to their son's death. I've spoken to a few people who say they're just preparing for the worst, preparing for whatever Tropical Storm Cindy may bring. Now, of course, like you said, I am here at the Mansfield location located at 3825 Mansfield Road. A family in Country Place subdivision is tired of poor drainage in their neighborhood. They're claiming drainage pipes that belong to the parish are washing away what's underneath their driveways. This problem is causing their driveways to cave in. The police department operates on about $1.4 million for overtime. This $150,000 will be added to that. This money would pay specifically for marked patrols. Police are still searching for a suspect. The victims have been identified as 26-year-old Christopher Hayes and 19-year-old Benjamin Finney. Now, Finney was pronounced dead at the scene. Hayes was taken to University Health with serious injuries but is expected to live. Police say both men suffered from gunshot wounds to their upper body. The shooting happened in Shreveport's Moortown neighborhood. It was a very active scene Saturday night with about 35 police units on site. As said earlier, police believe the suspect fired multiple shots at the victim's vehicle near the intersection of Hollywood and Juella Avenue. The victims then drove to a family member's house on Flora Street for help. I spoke to a friend of Finney's, Derek Henderson, who says he will be missed.
I would see him from time to time, and I would always ask him about, what are you doing? Hey, what's the progress? And those kinds of conversation. And he was always a smile, always full of life, and he was just, as far as I knew, a very great kid.
I spoke to Councilwoman Stephanie Lynch, who says she's heard this shooting stems from a previous incident and could be retaliation. We did some digging and found out that Hayes was a suspect in a 2013 drive-by shooting on Monk House at I-20. The family is doing okay considering what happened. As you can see, this large tree fell on more than half of this home. I spoke to the renter of the home, Johnny Whitaker, who says there were at least 6 people inside when the tree fell, most of them children, and they only walked away with cuts and bruises. And to prove that, they're actually here with me now. Jamiria, can you walk in? Can you tell me what happened whenever the tree fell?
Whenever the tree fell, we just started running. We ran outside and then we called 911.
Now, Ultimate says since this bridge is over 40 years old, they are looking at a more permanent solution. According to the National Weather Service, we may want to prepare for a wild hurricane season. The National Weather Service is saying this season will be a slightly above normal one. Louisiana's last big hurricane was Hurricane Rita in September 2005. Forecasters say since it's been over a decade since the last hurricane, the state is in for one soon.
Hi, Jazz.
Hi, Jerry. The meeting just wrapped up a few minutes ago. Now, the Bossier City Council did adopt the ordinance appropriating $6 million to come from the 2015 LCDA Capital Projects Fund. It authorizes the mayor to sign any documents necessary to acquire right-of-way property for the Walter O'Bigby Carriageway. House Bill 667 would give the Neighborhood Redevelopment Board authority to call for tax elections to raise necessary funds. The lead author of the bill is former Mayor, State Representative Cedric Glover. Jeff Lorison is a Greenwood volunteer firefighter and the regional manager at Industrial Electronics. Lorison took 2 years and 2 weeks to build a freighter canoe following instructions from YouTube and Pinterest. He named the canoe Lost Caddo after the local Caddo Indians. Lorison started his travels in Minnesota on Friday, June 30th and went from there. Lorison says he packed MREs and frozen meals his wife cooked for that venture. Over the course of 9 days, he only stopped to make camp and gas up the canoe. The boat averaged 20 miles per hour, and some days he was on the river for 18 hours.
The history of the river was just was fascinating to me. Some of the places that I went by, some of the effigy mounds in Illinois, when I went by Hannibal, Missouri, thinking of Mark Twain and him being in the river. Abraham Lincoln actually floated the river 3 times on a raft. So I thought about perhaps I'm seeing some of the same things in places that he had seen when he did it.
Larson ended his travels in Vicksburg, Mississippi. He returned home this past Saturday. Jerry, this is not Larson's first adventure and definitely not his last. He says he plans to take his canoe to Cuba next.
So, Jazmin, how's that teenager doing?
Well, she's recovering from a severe cut to the top of her head now. This accident happened last week while Haley Hamacher was at Altitude Trampoline Park with friends. The manager of the park and her mother's attorney are speaking out about what happened. What you are seeing is surveillance video provided to us by Altitude Trampoline Park. Part of it has been blurred to protect other children's identities. You can hear the park's owner describe what is happening.
At that point, what she's done is jumped straight up, double flipped, and landed directly on her head.
15-year-old Haley was jumping in the foam pit area of the park when she does a flip, then flies off the trampoline. An Altitude employee sees it.
An employee was there within 15 seconds to assess the situation, monitor the accident that occurred, and he did everything that he should have done.
This picture shows a cut to the top of Haley's head. She received 10 staples and was diagnosed with a concussion. Bean says the employee applied pressure to the wound and the bleeding was stopped in a matter of minutes.
I was fully talking to the child. She's fully conscious. We were having a conversation about, different things, asking her what happened, asking about her parents, were they there?
The teen's mother, Crystal Nelson, was called. She arrived in minutes and took her daughter to the doctor. Nelson later criticized the park on Facebook for how the situation was handled and said a piece of metal sticking out of the mat caused the cut. She's hired a lawyer.
Came into contact with a piece of metal structure that's between the trampoline and the foam pit.
Attorney Zachary Shadinger says to his knowledge the metal was covered but not padded very well. Altitude disputes that, saying the teen was not following the rules that are posted in front of the foam pit. One thing both sides agree on is that child safety is paramount.
One, the safety that should have been provided to my client's daughter, but also, looking forward at other kids jumping there, and that's one of our biggest concerns.
Shadinger says Haley is still experiencing blurred vision, headaches, and some bruising. Management at Altitude Trampoline Park say they are satisfied with the rules they have in place and believe they have made it as safe as possible.